I'd like to call the January 17th, 2023 committee meeting of the ECPPS Board of Education to order. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Daniel Spence.
Here.
Dr. Sheila Williams, not here. Angela Cobb.
Here.
Tommy Old.
Here.
Pam Pereza. Here. Rodney Walton. Rodney Walton. Sharon Warden.
Present.
Thank you so much. I'd like to call on Mr. Tommy Old if he would read the ethics awareness statement.
Welcome to the meeting of the Elizabeth City Pastime Board of Education. It's my duty to remind members of the board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138A of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is your duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage your personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure the absence of conflicts or potential conflicts. Does any member know of any conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board today? Okay. No response.
I'd like to ask for a motion to approve our agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for January 17th, 2023 as presented.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Angela Cobb and a second by Mr. Pam Pereza to accept the agenda for January 17th as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Sheila Williams, not present. Angela Cobb.
Yes.
Tommy Old.
Yes.
Pam Pereza.
Yes.
Rodney Walton. And Sharon Warden.
Yes.
Let me correct that Rodney Walton is not present and Sharon Warden.
Thank you so much. Let us move, seconded, and it goes forward. The agenda has been accepted. I would like to call on now Ms. Sharon Warden, the Chair of the Finance Committee.
Okay, and at this time, we have a monthly maintenance report that we received in our email for information. Ms. Marlene Wilkins, does anyone have any questions about that report? Is Marlene here?
She had to step out
Okay.
working on some issues we had today, but I'm glad to take any.
All right, any questions on any items on that report from anyone?
I don't have any questions about the report, but I do have questions about some plumbing. I just went to a couple of schools and I noticed there are several toilets or urinals not working, bagged up. And a couple of, are we short staffed still on maintenance plumbers, or you probably don't know that answer. We're going to ask you.
We definitely can check in on those, and if you
Let's
share
go.
some of them with the schools, we can update on what we're seeing on the front. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
I just have one question about the email you sent out about Weeksville. I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but how do we get out of propane?
Well, I think this cold weather has caused us to use more heat than we have done in years past. We're on a schedule with the company, and so I think having run that unit with more frequency, I would imagine would be one of the contributors to that. We did get the tank filled today, and so we've got heat back in circulation there. And one of the things Marlene and I are working with now, potentially anticipating some cold months until we get out of winter season, is moving that propane refill up for the coming months.
Okay, that's good. That answered it. Thanks.
I also have a couple questions that aren't on that report, but still on maintenance kind of questions. And Ms. Haynes, you might can help with this one too. Do we know if there are any current supply chain issues with products that we use in the maintenance department that are high demand products like soaps and trash bags? Is there any kind of a backlog still with those kinds of products that we might struggle getting those needed things on a daily, to replenish?
Do you want to jump in? I mean, I've got a couple of ideas. But.
Go ahead. I mean, either way, I haven't heard an issue with janitorial supplies, so to speak, but we are having issues just in general with maintenance, repair, and replacement parts, and especially with some of like these HVAC projects and these repairs that we're doing. it's taken a lot longer to get those, like the cooling towers and the chillers and those things that we have, the boilers that we've got online to be replaced because we have several projects in the works. But there has been a delay in supply chain for those things.
I know this question is probably better asked to Ms. Wilkins because she would know directly, but do you have any idea what a timeline looks like as far as turnaround goes? Say as a principal, if I ordered a high demand item like liquid soap for soap dispensers, is there an approximate turnaround time that I should expect it to be before it's filled? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I would have to check with Marlene on her actual schedule. I know a lot of those supplies are ordered by the custodians, and then Vanessa at the warehouse keeps the warehouse stocked so that they can keep those items delivered to the schools. But as far as the process that they're using, I can check on
I
that.
was just curious if we were still in that supply chain place.
What I'll tell you just from things that I know that were ordered is you kind of never really know when you're going to hit that supply chain issue until you kind of hit it. So today it's here and it's plentiful, and then tomorrow it's kind of gone and backlogged. But
Is there any kind of thought process in place if that happens as to how to spread the wealth, I guess? You know, you might have one school that has an overabundance of one product and one school that has
Right.
I didn't know if there was maybe
Yes.
something in place.
yes, and we encourage that communication between schools and custodians so that if one of them is out, that they can get those products from somewhere else. We did put out a bid for janitorial services sometime back and got no responses for people to, for those items. And we will put that back out again. We're gonna redefine the scope a little bit, but one of the things we had asked in there was for delivery to each school, and that was one of the issues that we got feedback from vendors on that. So we're gonna revamp that bid and put it out one more time.
And a good example of that is from the end of the year, we just randomly had a hard time getting paper towels.
Mhm.
So there was a moment for about a week, Sheep Harney comes to mind, where the supply chain really came in there. So it is hit or miss on some of these items, and it's not as predictable. And so that's one of the challenges. And we go through vendors typically to get items in bulk. So, because we get cost savings that way. So if a vendor is having supply chain issues, you might be able to go buy the item at Walmart, but the vendor we use for cost savings might have the supply chain. But yeah.
Thank you for your answers. I know I'm going to be learning a lot along the way.
And I do know Ms. Wilkins has reached out to some of the contract vendors too as well on those janitorial supplies. So I think like for paper products and such that Brain and some of those other vendors do supply those items. I know she's reached out to them. So I'll get with her and we'll get an answer back to you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's what you said. We do have the liberty, though, to go local if we're out.
You could if it was depending. So like if you needed like bulk, you may not be able to get them at Walmart because you might wipe the shelf. But I mean, in an emergency type situation, you could. I mean, one of the things we were exploring, we didn't have to go to it because we were able to get the plumbing situation repaired. But it looked like at Pasquotank Elementary there was going to be a moment where we didn't have water, fountain water, bathroom water. We in that moment explored going out and just buying some bulk bottled water to help. So you could have that kind of day or two short-term situation, but the bulk nature of it could make that hard to sustain long-term. But that is an option.
Long-term, for
Yeah.
sure.
And some of those things are tied to dispensers and particular dispensers and particular product that fit those dispensers. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as well. But it is hard to get suppliers right now to commit to specific delivery dates.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we're going to move on to Rachel, who is going to present several items, and she's going to present those items before we take action on the items that are indicated that we need to take action on. So,
Chair Spence and Committee Chair Ward and board members, good evening. The items on the agenda tonight, the first one is FBT 02, and that's the audit contract for the FY 22-23 school year. So that would be the year ending December 30th, 2023. The contract is again with Anderson, Smith & White. We put out a bid, and last year we put out a bid with a 1-year, 2-year renewal option with the same company. The contract before you is an LGC template. It is reviewed by the LGC, and it's in line with the response from Anderson, Smith & White in their proposal. Are there any questions on the audit contract?
I just have one question, and I read it like 3 times. It's in a different language than what I speak, So probably what most of us feel. You understand it perfectly. Is that just purely a financial audit, or are they auditing other things within the school district?
They audit other things, other programs as well. It's all lumped in as the financial audit, but it's the full audit report.
Okay.
So they audit pre-K, they audit
Okay.
other, all of our federal programs that meet a certain threshold, and then they do sample audits as well.
Great,
So
thanks.
it's a full audit. It takes several,
Months.
it takes some time.
The only question I had, Ms. Haynes, was, is the quoted price in line with what we've paid for audit services in the past?
It's actually a little less
It's
than what we
less.
used to pay.
So when does that start?
When does the audit
Mhm.
itself start?
That's depending on us.
So they'll come and do a visit around May. They'll
Okay.
schedule to come in and they'll start doing interviews and they'll do some of their fraud audits and start pulling some testing. And then they'll come back in August and spend a week, usually a week on site, completing the information that they need. And then of course they'll send us the report, we'll review it and back and forth. So, and it's filed with the LGC by October 31st. So,
Okay.
but they will be on site typically twice prior to. Okay. Are there any other questions on the audit contractor process? The next item on the agenda are budget amendments. The first amendment is budget amendment number 104 for the state public school fund. And it's an increase to the state budget of $1,273,198. And this is for our IFE conversion. The second amendment is budget number 304 for the federal grants fund and shows an overall increase of $373,417.22. The breakdown on that is on the following page, but the majority of it is for the for PRC 105, which is the school improvement grant for Pasquotank County High School. The next amendment is amendment number 802 and shows an overall increase of $107,120. And the majority of that is for additional funds for pre-K. Are there any questions on the budget amendments? The next two items in your packet are for information purposes. The FBT 04 is the purchasing report for the month of December. Are there any questions on that report? And the final item in your packet is FBT 05, and that's the quarterly report. It's dated January 13th, 2023. Just walking through the report a little bit, if you look at the ones with the graphs on it, the first graph shows you how our revenue is broken down, revenue by funding source. As you can see, the majority of our funding is state funded, state funds. The next set of graphs shows you the budget. So you can see from here, the majority of the budget is instructional services and salaries and benefits. And that aligns, the last two at the bottom are the expenses to date in graph form. So you can see that does align with the budget, with still the majority being in instructional services and salaries and benefits. And then if you flip over to the breakdown, the expense report summary, this is where we are year to date. If you see Fund 1 and 2, we're at 47.78 and 51.26%. So being halfway through the year, we count it as halfway because our major expenses for January haven't hit yet because payroll hasn't posted. We're in a good place with our budget. Fund 3 is a little low. That's the federal funds, but that's not low. Overall low, it's low because there are multi-year grants that are included in that amount. Are there any questions on the quarterly reports? Ms. Warden, if there are no questions, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Haynes, for that detailed report. Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion for the board to place FBT 02 audit contract and FBT 03 budget amendments number 104, 304, and 802 on the consent agenda for the January 23rd, 2023 regular board meeting. And I need a second on that.
I'll second it.
And a roll call vote, Ms. Parker.
Dr. Sheila Williams, not present. Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tommy Old,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton, not present, and Sharon Woodin.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Sharon Warden and a second by Ms. Angela Cobb to place FBT 02 and FBT 03 on the consent agenda, and it has passed and moved forward. Next, we are, we're there already. Oh,
Yep.
we're
That concludes my report
here.
from my committee. So we're at
So I would like to ask
closed
Ms.
session.
Pam Pereza to take us into closed session.
Make a motion for the board to go into closed session as allowed by NC General Statute 143-318.11A6 for the purpose of considering one or more personnel matters that are confidential under NC General Statute 115C-20 and as allowed by NC Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the board attorney regarding matters protected by the attorney-client privilege and to preserve that privilege.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Motion from Ms. Pam Perez, a second from Mr. Tommy Old for us to go into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Sheila Williams, not present, Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tommy Old,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton, not present, and Sharon Woodin.
Yes.
Thank you so much.